I'm giving you guys the dimensions of all the woodwork inside my 2002 Ford E150 van life build. This is the standard size Econoline van, not the extended length. This video will be a quick bonus for those of you who have asked to replicate certain parts of my build. Let's get started. Length of the van from the wall to the very back is exactly 9 feet. The height from the floor to the ceiling is 51 inches. From the widest point in the van, it's about 72.5 inches. For surfaces, I used about a 1/4 inch plywood. And then for framing, I used 2x3s almost everywhere for the bed. Most of the frame of the wall and the cabinetry up front is built out with this 1x2. The main woodworking tools was a jigsaw, which you can make shapes in wood and curve things the proper way you need to. And then I used a Craig jig, which is this little thing. It helps you angle your screws into wood so then you can hide the screws so you don't see any in the finished product. We also mainly used a miter saw to cut all our wood. Now I'm not going to show you how to use each one of these tools because there are plenty of videos on YouTube teaching you how to use like a Craig jig and the jigsaw. So when starting a build, everything starts for me with the size of the bed. We knew the dimensions of the bed, but we did not know the dimensions of things we hadn't bought yet, like the sink and the stove and the cabinetry and everything else. So everything is centered around the size of the bed. In this case is a twin-sized bed. These dimensions are very close to a twin-sized bed. So in order, this was the first part to be built in the van, was the bed. The length of the bed is 71.5 inches. The full width of the bed is 38.25 inches. Just from this part of the hinge, it is about 27 inches. And just this part is about 11.25 inches. Measuring the height of the bed is exactly 1 foot, given that the plywood on top adds just a little bit extra. The supports underneath the top of the bed add up to about 9.5 inches. For the cabinetry, we first had to order the stove and the sink to be able to properly distance how wide the cabinet was. Just because the sink is a little bit wider, we put it outside of this van rib right here because it goes back a little bit more. When you're building inside the van, you want to make sure that you're working with the van metal. So there was an easy point to mount this cabinet to, so that's what determined the height of it. So the full length of this cabinet is about 84 inches and 1/4. Now you can see how there are parts that are actually cut out around. This is the full size. It's about 17.5 inches from the wall, and the height from the floor is exactly 26 inches. So the cabinet in the back was formed with a like 1x6, and if you can see, there's a little split here used with the Craig jig. You can't see the screws, so the back is probably like a 1x10 or something. So I put the 1x10 on with the Craig jig, 1x6, and then this piece is actually the 1x2. It's laid sideways on it as the end trim piece. And as you can look up here, you can see the screws of the Craig jig. There's one of the holes right there. It actually screws this thing and pulls it in that way towards it, so it keeps everything nice and tight together. And I finish it off with wood stain and polyurethane. I put about 3 coats of polyurethane on it, and you can see it hasn't really gotten very dented over the years because the polyurethane is super strong, and I put my feet up there all the time. So once you have the bed put in and then you have the cabinetry put in, now you can put on these 2 rails right here and then measure the distance across, which is this piece now, which goes down into place and makes it so the bed extends from side to side. And this is a full-length bed plus 1 inch. So the length is 70.5 inches. It's actually 1 inch shorter than this because it needs to fit over in between the cabinet. The length in the back is 15 7/8 inches. The width in the front is 17 inches. And this is because the van actually does get more narrow towards the back. And thus you have the full bed that sits like this. So the bed is a foam bed. The bottom is 3 inches of high density, high quality foam, and the top is 2 inches of medium density, high quality foam. Both of these were bought at Foam Factory. You can check in the description for the link on that. For the curve of the pantry, I used a cardboard cutout to get the dimensions, and then I just laid that on top of the wood, traced it, and cut it with the jigsaw. So the base of it at least comes out 22.5 inches. It is about 20.5 inches tall. And the length of it is exactly 35 inches. And you can see this extra cabinet down here actually pulls out. It's only this 1x2 right here as a structural unit, and another 1x2 back there on slides. So in deciding how far back that the wall should be in the front from the chair, I just basically wanted something that was comfortable to sit in up here. So as you can see, I really laid the chair back just in my comfortable position, and then I just rested the wall up against that. That's where I then screwed in on the bottom and the ceiling where the wall placement should go. In my build, it's exactly 12 inches behind the seat. This wall was framed with 1x2s the whole way around up top, and then it was covered with plywood. And you can see that it makes it about 1 inch thick inside, which there's complete insulation all the way through the entire wall. And that leaves you with a nice little, really cool area back here when it gets really warm up there during the summer. Curve of the wall around where the door is, that was determined with a cardboard cutout that I just placed up against the plywood and all that to make the perfect cut. So the wood on the door is the same plywood used everywhere else. Basically, I put the entire uncut board up here and screwed it in, and then I came around the back of it and then just traced around the edge of the door with like pencil, and then I took it back off and then cut the pencil, and then I finally could place it back, and then I would just like kind of trim it where it needed to be trimmed extra, and then that came out for the final door. I'll add a little bonus here because I actually built the same exact ceiling on someone else's van, and I actually videotaped the entire thing, so I'll go ahead and show you that now. Okay, so a lot of you have been asking how I do my ceiling in my van, and I have one I'm building right now very similar to how I built mine. There are differences though. For instance, she used the wool, as you can see up here, and I used polyiso board. And then also along these ribs that go side to side in the van, like this one, I had fairing strips go all the way across. It was little 1x2s that you can get at Home Depot, and we didn't use any for her since without them, if the board is all the way up, she can still stand. So we wanted her to be able to stand. So as you can see, there's Reflectix below the plywood right here, and that Reflectix goes all the way up. It's glued onto the board using Gorilla Glue. What we're doing, we're screwing this board directly into the van metal up there. That's the ribs that go side to side on the van. We're doing that on each one of them. That goes all the way up to the front of the van. See, right now we have one screwed here and another one screwed there. Basically, when I first cut this, I measured the board from where it was going to be up here all the way back to the fan. I used the tape measure, and then that's where I got this line from to cut this hole for the fan, and then basically just measured this white piece on this side of it, not the other side because that's flimsy side. So I measured from here to here because it is a square dimension wise. So I measured from here to here, got that dimension, and then from this right here, I just brought that back with the tape measure and measured this, and then basically once I had that, you just measure the same length here to here and just put it in the very middle of the board or wherever the fan is on, if you already have it installed, you know, and then you just cut it with a jigsaw. You cut that hole with the jigsaw. So you put a hole through the board and then use the jigsaw to go around and trim, you know, all the way around. And that's basically how you get that hole. So yeah, this is a Pro Master, by the way, if you're wondering. This is the short version of it. The wire for the fan, what you should do is make it come out and around and then
over to one of the sides and hang down, at least until you're ready to use it. You're using wool. You see what she did? She tied ropes to the side of the van. This is definitely a good idea, just to get it up there, you know, just to hold it in place while you're putting this board up. For the front right here, put that up and screw right up into that. I'm drilling holes first with the drill and then putting the screws into those holes. So as you can see, I put that long wooden beam. I just screwed it in here and one right there. And this just holds up this end piece right here. This long plywood piece, it didn't fit all the way over to the side, so we added this extra little bit on the end of it, and it just goes up underneath this. So I mean, that's pretty much ready for this wood to go up now. Just make sure you lay it all out before, you know, you come back and find out you have the wrong stuff. So the first thing, you want to put up the board in the place it's going to be. Then you're going to drill your pilot holes. Make sure you're not drilling into the metal. So when you're making your cuts for this part, put the piece up there like as if it's just there without being cut first. And then you're gonna make your marks where the wood underneath is, and make your mark where the side is, this side, and then this. And then you're gonna cut in with a jigsaw. So you're gonna cut this way, all the way across, and then in that way. You can see how it comes to the edge. It basically goes all around the plywood and it just stops. It doesn't matter that little mess up because the fan itself, like it has that cover that goes all the way around, that's gonna cover that part up. So you're never gonna see all that. So one of the next things I did was cut this for the fan. You cut up into it, make a little angled piece so you can get your blade in there, and then just cut all the way around, and yeah, it comes down like that. And I used the jigsaw for that. In here before I cut it, the amount it sticks out of the ceiling up top is the amount that you cut off on this side. So it was 3 inches sticking out, so I cut off 3 inches over here. Next, you want to find the angle that you're going to cut your angled piece at, like this. This side's not done yet, so you want to find your angle and cut it out of the 2x4 like so. And you're going to use like a circular saw or a table saw for this. Once you have this angle that you want, you are going to basically screw this piece up into the metal. I chose that little spot. There's another spot down here where I put another one, the same exact angle. I have this thing in the way, right in the middle of the screen, and then this over here is just like the other side. So this side was actually really easy. As you see, I've already done this side. But now I cut this long board in half right at this middle part, so when it goes up, it's right here, and then I can use the other board. It's a lot lighter, so I can put it up onto the wall to figure out where I need to cut it to basically adjust for this thing that juts out of the wall right here. And then I'm going to screw both of these back together so it's one big board again using the Craig jig. And I'll show you how to do that. This is the Craig jig. This it's clamped on to it right now. You can see there's little pilot hole things go down, and you can drill into the wood using this piece, and then it creates these holes right here that you can put it's like pocket holes, so you can screw into them and connect another board on the side over here. So I'm gonna basically put this board back together after sawing it, and you know, it'll look like that. And this piece is cut out like this, so it'll fit around the door part. Now those are drilled into that wooden beam all the way in the back, and yes, these are drilled into the roof. I like the plywood up top.
Cool, guys. So my next video is going to be, I hope, hilarious. It's going to be a tour of this van, but everything I say is going to be wrong. I'm really looking forward to making this video. It's going to be the last video I make in this van before I sell it. So I wanted to put this video out to help you guys be able to kind of duplicate, you know, what I have here if you want to, because I've gotten so many people asking. So I'll see you in that next awesome video. Peace, guys.